Hey everybody, Bryce Kuhn here with the Crowded Booth. We got another great episode in tow for you today. We're talking MLB Lockout, and while the players and the owners are battling right now, the fan, you, is the one that's going to hurt the most. We're going to talk about that and more on today's episode of the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Kuhn.
Welcome everybody, Bryce Kuhn alongside Ralph Leary. And Ralph, it's a fantastic day, but the biggest thing that's not fantastic about it is Major League Baseball. We're still waiting for spring training to start. We're going to talk about that and more. But hey, Ralph, how you doing on this fine Thursday afternoon?
It's great, man. It's another day. It's beautiful weather today, actually. Yesterday we got to enjoy some baseball, some good college baseball yesterday up in Atlanta. So it's been a good day, a good week so far, and it still kind of hurts to talk about what we're talking about today because you'd rather be talking about the Braves going into spring training and what their plans are, and all the big names that are showing up and who's showing up on time, who's showing up a little later, but we're not. So.
We're unfortunately not. This is the Crowded Booth. Make sure to check us out at thecrowdedbooth.com, where we release all of our episodes still, as well as some good content here locally in the Columbus, Georgia area, the Chattahoochee Valley. If you're listening on our radio, we appreciate you and our friends over at WQEE. That's East Alabama and West Georgia. Ralph, let's dive right into it. Don't waste any time, because time is money, Ralph. So we're not going to do that. But hey, listen, we talked earlier in the week about Freddie Freeman and baseball, and it kind of got the juices flowing. But Ralph, conversations about who's going to sign where normally would have happened back in December, maybe January. It's now flooded to February 24th, Ralph, and we still don't have baseball. So let's just go ahead and talk about this. How do you feel about these negotiations? We're going to pull up a tweet in a little bit. We're going to talk about, some of the stuff. I want to reserve a lot of the show for talking about how the fan is affected mostly out of this. But man, this lockout, did you think it would last this long? Kind of what are your thoughts on some of the numbers being thrown around?
Well, I think you and I talked about this personally all last year. We talked about how the season was going and how the Braves were playing all year. And every time we end that conversation, I always end with, at the end of the year, we're probably not going to have baseball for a while because we knew this was going to happen. And we all expect this to go long. We didn't expect it to be this long and kind of creeping up on we may not have spring training and we may have a delayed season with less games played. We weren't expecting that honestly, but now we are. We're in this kind of world, and it's hurting a lot of fans. And most people would be sitting in South or Middle Florida, enjoying the weather, enjoying some baseball, cracking the bats, balls hitting the mitts, just everyday baseball kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're not because they're still arguing. I say arguing. They're still, trying to find a compromise to meet everyone's wants and needs. And, it sucks because, us as fans really need to we don't see in their eyes because we don't get paid this kind of money. Owners and players make
we definitely don't.
No, we're far from it. Now there may be a year or two who could say they've seen the kind of money, but we have never seen that kind of money. But still, in their eyes it's completely different. For us, it sounds like, well, this kind of seems a little selfish, because all they want is more money. But are they getting a fair amount of money that they deserve to be playing baseball and all that kind of stuff? So, it hurts as a fan, but we knew this was going to happen. I feel like.
We knew it was going to happen, Ralph, and it was just kind of those things that you just didn't think about, especially for us as Braves fans. We just tried not to think about it. That was the biggest thing going forward. But listen, this lockout conversation has been going on very long, and what I'm afraid of, Ralph, is they're still not far apart. The latest news is that the Major League Baseball, I said the Major League Baseball, Major League Baseball is going to, and they already have, given a deadline of Monday. And pretty much said, if you're not doing that, we're going to cancel games and we're not going to pay you. So, Ralph, pull up Jeff Passan's tweet because this kind of gives us a glimpse. And I'll tell you, we're not experts on this, but this kind of gives you a glimpse of how far they are away. So, Jeff Passan tweeted this out last night, 5 days before the deadline. Major League Baseball says it will postpone regular season game, and here's the gap. The CBT is $31 million. The pre-arbitration bonus pool, $95 million. The minimum salary, they're $135,000 off per player. And the draft lottery, they're 3 picks. And Bassan says it, and I'll say, Ralph, you and I are not experts on what all these things mean and kind of how all it goes. But as he says, it's a lot to cover in less than a week. And so when you look at this and you know, maybe not, we don't understand all the numbers and kind of what goes into it. When a guy that covers the sport, whether you like Jeff Passan or not, and says that's a lot to cover in less than a week,
Yeah.
and I think he's being truthful in that. Does that worry you that by that Monday deadline that we're not going to have a deal done? To me, it forces the hand of the players when I don't think the players are completely to blame for all of this.
Yeah, man. And what sucks the most is that you look at like last Thursday's meeting, it went
Yeah.
15 minutes. That's not good. That's really not a good thing to see. Now Mondays and Tuesdays meetings went really well. Apparently, now I say that is they went longer than 15 minutes. I think Mondays was 3 hours. Tuesdays was up to close to 2.5. So we were able to see some progress made, and it's slight progress. We know we've already seen the biggest deal made is that there will be a universal DH. That was the one thing that got passed pretty easily. There really wasn't much debate on it. It was when it was brought up, it was kind of passed pretty quickly. Now, when it comes to salaries and lottery picks and all that stuff, that's going to take some more time. That's when it gets to the nitty and gritty of contract extensions and all that kind of stuff. So that's when it's going to take a little more time. And you got to be delicate with this kind of stuff because you don't want to push owners too far. You don't want to push players too far. You got to hit that right in the middle. And a lot of players and former players are tweeting out. You may see it occasionally. There's mediators for each one, and players don't want a mediator. They want to speak on their own behalf. And I feel like that might be a compromise or not compromise. It's kind of where it's cutting in a little bit, where it's not helping the players speak to the owners. They want to, get their word out, but it's not helping. So they got to find somewhere where they can get their word out and what they want for, themselves and the younger players and incoming players in the future.
Yeah, and Ralph, for me in this, it hurts the players because we've seen a lot of players take to Twitter. I mean, that's kind of the thing to do. And then here's another little glimpse at it for you, because this is from Jesse Rogers of ESPN. This is the owners, Ralph, heading into the meeting today. And then I'm going to scroll down here for you. Here are the players, some of the player representatives, and then also kind of in that group was, as you see right here, day 4 started today around lunch. That's Max Scherzer, Andrew Miller, and then the MLBPA, the Players Union guy, in Tony Clark. So, Ralph, when you look at this, everyone's there. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you said the players want to be represented for themselves, and they want to be able to do that. Now they're taking to Twitter, and I've seen a lot of media personalities say, go say this then. Like, get in front of a microphone, in front of a news, and say this, because I think one of the big ones has been Jack Flaherty, right-handed pitcher for the Cardinals. He's been very vocal on Twitter, and a lot of other guys have. But for me in this instance, it's kind of interesting because I think the players, and this is how it's going to go, it's going to be ugly. That's just how this kind of stuff happens. The owners are going to make the players look like the bad guys and vice versa. I don't think either side is necessarily in the bad or the good. There's bad things that they are, trying to push, maybe a narrative or something like that. But I feel like in years past, I really feel like, and I know this, the last deal the players got screwed over. A little bit of the arbitration stuff. And I'll say, Ralph, and we're going to talk about, I don't believe that a player should have to wait 7 years until he can negotiate his own contract. Most guys don't make it that long. And so you're telling guys, if you don't stay in the leagues for 7 years, then it's not going to work. And you just, sorry, you don't get to have that right.
Yeah, and if it's people who don't understand that part. The arbitration is people who are sign out of they get drafted or sign from college, all that stuff. They can play 7 years in the league and never sign an extension. Now you think about players like that. Obviously, Acuna only played 2 years to sign his. Well, his deal is a lot different. He's from out of the country. Yeah. They have different contract extensions and all that stuff. But Austin Riley, who is skyrocketing himself into MVP races, into a star player, he's going to be making the minimum salary for 4 more years.
Yeah.
I mean, and honestly,
and it's going to go up, but he's going to get paid like $4 or $5 million when he probably projected to be, he's like a $15 million player right now.
Yeah, and you look at it from our eyes and fans, you're like, well, he's making good money. Yes, but as a player, in players' eyes, he's not. He's better than probably 60% of the guys who are higher than him, and he's 10 times better than. Because that's criminal in his eyes, which I will get. I understand that because you want to be paid the correct amount that you were earned. So,
Yeah, and this is something too. According to the Princeton Review, which is a review journal, they did a study. Ralph, around 700 players participate in Major League Baseball each year. That's give and take, guys going up and down. And the average career life, and this was as of the year, let me make sure I get the correct year on this. This was published in 2020. This is right before kind of COVID hit going into the season. The average career span for a guy once he gets to the major leagues, 2.7 years. Now, an average career for a baseball player is 5.3. That's minor leagues throughout. So, Ralph, we're talking about a gap that has to be closed in that instance. We're going to talk more about this when we come back. You're listening here to the Crowded Booth, and you're watching it over on YouTube.
Cook's Place began serving our signature hot dogs in 1985 from a cart on Broadway. We still serve the best hot dogs and scrambled dogs in town at the corner of Moon and Miller Road and at the landings. Our friendly staff won't let you leave hungry. Come in and eat to the beat with our 50s jukebox. Cook's Place. Fast service, great people, awesome food. What are you waiting for?
Back here on the Crowded Booth, Bryce Coon alongside Ralph Leary. Ralph, we're talking about the MLB lockout, and let's just get to the nitty gritty here. You think this is coming to an end anytime soon? How do you feel about this?
I feel like.
Do you think that Monday deadline? Let's say that. Do you think that Monday deadline is going to be hit on some of these issues? We threw the graphic up earlier that Jeff Passan had. I mean, what do you think?
No, I don't think so. I think it's because of how the negotiations been going before this week and last week. They were not going very well. I mean, you had a 15-minute meeting. That's never good. It's a lot to talk about. And in that tweet, there's a lot to talk about. It's a lot to take over into that. And they're not going to be able to hit all those issues today. As of Thursday right now, February 24th, I don't believe they'll get everything done by Monday. It's just so much to handle. And those are long meetings, and people get frustrated and they stop talking. So this is where I think, this is a cut and dry of it. We're not going to have a full season this year. It's sad to say everything's going to be delayed and some games will be canceled, but this is how it's going to go.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, too, that the players are being put in a tough situation. They want to negotiate, but now their hands being essentially forced because, like you said, Ralph, if they don't get that deadline, then they're not going to be able to play 162, and they're not going to be paid, and that's the big thing. I think there was a graphic, too, that broke down what guys like Max Scherzer, how much money he would lose from this. We're going to talk about the fan base in the last couple minutes, but when do you think it does get worked out, Ralph? I mean, Monday, I don't like the fact that the league and the owners put a deadline on the players because Jack Flaherty is one of those that said, you put a deadline on us, but then you didn't talk to us for a month. So I don't understand how you get to be the one that controls the situation. The players want to have control, and they also want to play. I mean, minor league spring training is happening right now. Like that's going on there because they're obviously not underneath it.
Right.
But what do you think? I mean, when do you think that this happens?
If what's really sad to say is I don't think it's too much longer. What's bad is the deadline's Monday, and if the deadline's a little further back, I think they could hit it probably about end of. I really think it's end of next week or beginning of the week after that, that first week of March. Just because I feel like it's not much left to talk about after this week. I think that a lot gets done today and tomorrow. I'm hoping for this, honestly. But there's just nothing's going to be hit by Monday. Nothing's going to be all done by Monday. And, I think we see, instead of seeing 162 games, Bryce, I think it's like 140. There's 20 games canceled. It's a lot. That's a lot of revenue for some of these teams. And a lot of these games players don't get to play in. And, I know a lot of these players don't want 162 games a season.
Yeah. Well, minor league plays around 140. So it's something
right.
that they're used to being playing. And I think what you said is definitely true. The ugly reality of it is that the deadline's been put, and where you said from last Thursday, the 15-minute meeting, there have been strides made. Like I think that we can say that, and we can be positive since last Thursday. But I use this phrase often with different topics and conversation. It seems like they're getting ready to take flight. But is the runway long enough? Is the runway long enough, the time frame long enough for them to be able to get this deal done? And I'm with you. I don't think that by Monday we're going to have a deal. Now, listen, we both love baseball. It's tough to not have. And you were saying right before, we're kind of going over show topics. This is the time of the year where college basketball is about to start heating up, especially with kind of March Madness conference tournaments, stuff like that. football season, while there is really no off season, spring practice. But your big topic right now is kind of who's your preseason picks for awards and stuff like that. This is the time to do that. You're starting to get a feel. Spring training games would have started this week. So I think that it does hurt a little bit to see this kind of stuff. We're going to talk about who's affected most by this, but I hope a deal gets done sooner rather than later.
Oh,
I really do. Not for my own just personal game, but I mean,
for everyone's game, honestly.
For everyone, but think about it from the player's perspective. What is they just supposed to go back and play and act like there's no problem? Like, there's some real bad blood right now. Like, this is not a good situation. So you're just going to come back and say, yeah, that sounds good. Now, I get it. A lot of people sit on the side of the players saying they need more. There are certain things the players need. And I think it's specifically the arbitration thing gets me, and then the idea of the minor league. Like, in fact, they're not represented at all. But then also, too, Ralph, and you know this, I mean, your family owns a business. When you own a business, you assume all the risks that go with that. And so as an owner who invests their money, I also understand the fact of where, like, those people work for you, but you assume every single risk. What happened during COVID when you could not have anybody in the stands? Some teams dragged out, limited attendance last season. So there were some financial concerns being made. I do understand. And like I said, I'm not educated enough on the topic to know the specific financial numbers. But would you agree that it's kind of give and take on both sides, especially I mean, I understand the owner's standpoint a little bit on some of this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to take an honest look at it, you got to look at both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, all three sides. Look at the fans, the players, and the owners. The owners don't want to be giving too much money away, and they're losing money too. It's not like players won't be being paid if it's if the season's pushed back. But the owners are not making any money off these games and all the revenue they're supposed to be making off like spring training games and regular season games, all that stuff. So both sides are losing right now. No one's winning at all, honestly. And that's what the whole thing about this lockout is finding a compromise to meet everyone's wants and needs.
Yeah.
And even if they can't hit everyone, so they got to at least get it to where it's understandable on both sides. Now, if you're on Twitter and you see the pitch we brought up earlier, you see a lot of these players who are going. It's a lot of big name players: Max Scherzer, Garrett Cole, Andrew Miller. A lot of these are big name players because these guys speak out the most, and they want to represent baseball. Francisco Lindor was there the other day. These are some big name players because they speak out the most. They are honest with you. They're going to be Max Scherzer to me is one of the most respectful players in baseball.
Oh, hands yeah.
Doesn't cheat. He's one of the best players.
He's been a rival of Braves fans, but you got to acknowledge greatness where greatness is.
Oh yeah, I mean, I wanted to tell you that straight up. I think Max Scherzer is one of the best pitchers of baseball that we've witnessed in the past 8-9 years, and he's, at his age he's doing it still great. But for him to be there and representing the players, I know that means a lot to some of these younger guys, especially these young pitchers and young players, and look up to guys like him. Like Max Scherzer is a guy that I want to model my game after, and this means a lot to these players because they have a voice there. They have someone they can trust who's there, and I know they have these guys talking for them, and they don't want that. Let Max Scherzer and I saw a tweet a minute ago. It was funny. It was like start the conversation off with Max Scherzer. Come in relief with Andrew Miller and finish it with Zach Britton. It'd be the greatest trio in history. I'm like, that's funny, but also it's true though. You want these players to speak on for them, and the owners. I know the owners are backed by Rob Manfred, who's. I'm not speaking about that today. That's a conversation we had the other day, Bryce, about Rob Manfred and how
that's a whole episode.
He's ruining baseball. Just saying.
It's not good. Not good. No, and listen, I think we're going to talk here in a second when we come back about there's players and there's the owners, but there's one group of people that it hurts the most. We'll talk about that when we come back here on the Credit Booth.
Your soap is ugh, and your body wash is a synthetic detergent. But you're not a dish. You're a man. Switch to Dr. Squatch Natural Soap for Men. For men who build things. Open pickle jars on the first try. Slay dragons. And let their daughters braid their hair. Men who like to feel good and smell titillating. Dr. Squatch takes you places you never thought you'd go. Naked.
Back here on the Crowded Booth, Bryce Kuhn and Ralph Leary. And Ralph, this is something that's intriguing to me. We've talked about this a lot. Owners and players, yeah, there's things that they're wishing they could have. But who's really hurting here? And it's really the fans.
Mhm.
The fans of what make Major League Baseball. That's what makes them that. Let me say this again. The fans are what makes Major League Baseball special. Yes, you have your players. Yes, you have all these things, but there's certain aspects, Ralph. When you walk into, we grew up Braves fans. When you walk through the tunnel back and you see the stands and you see the green grass, it's a clear spring or a great summer evening. You know, there's nothing like a summer night watching baseball live. It's just simply one of the greatest things. The idea that we have that as someone, we may not have that as someone who loves the game, it does hurt. And I think for me, it hurts. You know, a lot of people are doing really good jobs, media outlets, especially Barstool Sports, pushing college baseball right now. Like they're like pushing the game and evolving that, especially in college softball as well. Apparently, the guy outside that's doing yard work outside your apartment, Ralph, does not like the game of baseball.
No, he
No,
is. He is not.
but the thing for me is Jose Trevino, right-handed pitcher for the Rangers organization. You just sent me another tweet from Alex Wood that we're going to bring up. He said, he said, I feel bad and I feel sorry for baseball fans because this is the people that are hurting. The people that buy the jerseys, buy season tickets. I mean, Ralph, me, our good friend Jake, we have season tickets. Like we have opening day tickets, and we don't know what to do with them. So we love this game. We love the exposure of the game. I think a baseball diehard fandom is kind of an exclusive fan base. You know, there's a few diehard fans, and to not have it, I mean, like I'm one of those people that like I will listen in on spring training radio broadcasts, or you've sent me highlights of like guys just hitting nukes when the games aren't televised on spring training that someone's filming with their iPhone 8. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. It makes the game fun, and so that's going to hurt. I think that's really who's going to hurt is the fan base that Major League Baseball has. And if it gets too ugly, Ralph, I don't know. I don't know if people will come back because I remember, you know, I've talked with my dad about this, and we've talked about this back in '94 when the strike happened. There were fans that did not come back. Now they had to have this. This is a great quote. The home run race. You remember Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa,
Yeah.
the things that happened in the early 2000s. What brought baseball fans back? It's baseball. That's what brought them back. The great stories throughout a season.
Mm-hmm.
And I think owners and players and whoever you want to get involved with, they're messing around too much to where they're betting on the fact that, baseball will bring fans back. And you can only punch somebody, Ralph, so many times in the stomach before they finally walk away.
All right. You know, and you speak on you hit it like perfectly. You know, a lot of these owners are not former players. Unlike, you know, you look at some of these other leagues and they have, you know, big name former players or people who understand the sport that are in the office, you know, front office and stuff. So basically, you don't really have that very often. And you know, a lot of just big business owners, and they don't understand what baseball really means. They just go off the revenue. And I know I'm saying this very harshly because there are some very good owners in baseball who do a great job and they keep the sport running very well. Yeah. But like you said, this hurts the fans the most. I mean, there's nothing better than going on a Friday afternoon, Friday night, Saturday night baseball game in Atlanta at Truist Park, sitting there with your friends or your family, and just a bunch of Braves fans around you. It's nothing better than enjoying those games. It could be a 1-0 shutout. It could be a 20-0 blowout. We've seen them both this year. You know, and even like if you want to understand how great baseball fans are, go watch any replay of a playoff game. And the reactions and stuff, just how loud it gets. I mean, even when the Braves were playing at Dodger Stadium, you could hear the Braves fans going crazy when they were there. You know, it's a passionate fan base. It's America's pastime. I mean, it's one of the greatest sports ever played. I feel like everyone grew up playing t-ball or playing some kind of backyard baseball. This is a sport that everyone comes and loves. You know, and you talk about what Barstool's doing. They're doing a great job pushing college baseball, college softball. You start seeing you start hearing about high school athletes now. Former players, kids are now prospects. Number one prospect in the nation right now is a former
Andrew Jones.
Andrew Jones. So you start hearing a lot more about these players and these college players. You start watching college baseball more. I think college baseball had a huge, rise in attendance this past week. I showed you attendance for over the weekends for some of these teams. It's crazy For Mississippi State led the way with like 38,000 total fans this weekend, and my Troy Trojans was over at 25th or 27th with 7,000 fans total for a weekend, which is good for them. But the rise in attendance for baseball is getting there, and it's going to happen, and it's going to continue to go up. I think baseball is growing in a good way. Now they got to get through this lockout because this is killing the game, honestly.
It's killing the game, Ralph, and I'll tell you one thing. Minor league baseball is not affected. Like, they're going to play, and I think you're going to see more support than we've seen in recent years for minor league baseball. Like, if you're an Atlanta Braves fan, and let's just say opening days push back, I don't want to play worst case scenario, but you and I we're also very realistic about the situation we're in. Let's say opening day is not till like May the 1st. You're going to have a full month of Gwinnett Stripers games to go to and watch the AAA Braves. Rome, and that's where I was for a long time, watching the Rome Braves. Maybe, Ralph, you went, if you're a Rays fan or you're living in the state of Alabama, you got the Barons or even Rocket City or Montgomery. Like, you have opportunities. And like you said, Ralph, people showed this past weekend with numbers that you threw out to me yesterday on our drive up to Atlanta of college baseball. They want to be in the building. Like, they want to. And I think, we're Braves fans, but look at the attendance numbers for last year. Like, they racked it up. They did a really, really good job of that. So I think it's really interesting to kind of see that. And Ralph, I want to pull this because you just sent this to me, this tweet from the Montgomery Biscuits, and it's I love it because it's so true. When you look at how minor league baseball is, I'm a baseball purist. Like, I love it. And so you see stuff like this, like the Montgomery Biscuits putting out there, a friendly reminder that our season is unaffected by MLB Lockout. We will see you on the River Rock on April 12th. Ralph, if minor league baseball could have the full-scale attention for almost a month or more, we don't know. And so I think it's one of those things that's exciting about the game. And let me give me your final thoughts on kind of like, what could we see change if that does? I think college baseball numbers are going to continue to go up, and minor league baseball is going to see great attendance.
Well, I think honestly, and you talk about college baseball right there at the end, you might see more, televised college baseball games, like not just ESPN Plus,
nationally televised.
Yeah, not Flow Baseball. And talking about nationally, ESPN. Even maybe CBS picks up some SEC games, all that stuff. Yeah, because they're gonna have to push it. We might even see televised minor league games. That would be huge for some of these. You might hear about your favorite prospect and watch them on, play for the Gwinnett Stripers, or if you're lower A baseball, like Rome Braves. You might get to see some of these guys more and hear about them more because they're the only ones playing right now. You want your catch of baseball, even summer league baseball. Honestly, I know we're pushing into summer, but I know even around here, the Columbus Chatahoots. And I know you may not be the biggest Chatahoots fan. You might not know anyone who plays, but it's baseball. And it's fun to watch.
Well, so Ralph, we were talking about this yesterday on our drive back. Remember in 2020 when I know COVID affected stuff, but remember how far they pushed back what they wanted to do until like August? Mm-hmm. What did we do? We drove to an hour and a half to Macon, Georgia to go watch the Macon Bacon. Like, it's stuff like that you have fun. You get to do some of these fun things. And baseball has a weird way of it's romantic. It brings you back in. I'm telling you, there's nothing like a June or a July night being up at Truist Park at a Braves game. Like, it's just, or whatever your favorite team is. It's just one of those things. So I hope it gets worked out, Ralph, and I hope that we can see a season for sure.
Yeah, it's nothing like we want to see. We don't want to see these guys lock out for 4 or 5 more months. We want to see it end as fast as possible, but everyone get what they want. I want to see players get what they want, and the owners get what they really want. So just get everyone happy. We get back on track, and we move on from this, and we start the season up. That's all we're looking for. We're not asking for a lot.
Yeah, not asking for a lot. We just want some baseball to be played. I think this week would have been the first week of spring training games, which I get giddy for. The weather started to warm up, and it's been a lot of fun. But hey, Ralph, appreciate it as always. Make sure to check us out on the YouTube channel, The Crowded Booth. Subscribe. You guys did some great things with the Freddie Freeman Show. We're going to bring more Braves content center because, hey, we are talking about national stories, but we are going to focus on our local teams, and that is the Atlanta Braves, who are going to be, whenever this season does decide to start, Ralph, they're going to be defending that title. My name is Bryce Kuhn. It's been Ralph Leary. Thank you so much for listening to us on the radio. Check us out on social media at The Crowded Booth. This has been another presentation of The Crowded Booth with Ralph Leary and myself, Bryce Kuhn.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. Crowded Booth with Bryce Coon.